All right, what's up guys? OJ here. Welcome back to another Nintendo Switch and gaming news video. Today, we've got some great topics for you guys, but before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe if you are someone new, as I drop daily gaming videos and also have live streams as well, and also click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now let's go ahead and get right into the first topic here, and we're going to be discussing how the Nintendo Switch effect has continued to take its place in this industry with multiple different games. And what we're going to be looking at is a game that's highly anticipated by many people out there, and that is Metroid Dread on the Nintendo Switch. Now this is a follow-up to multiple reports that I've already done on this game when it comes to the sales of it and how it's looking so far for pre-orders. This is something that I've been tracking pretty much since 2017 when the Nintendo Switch first came out, and it's only intensified since the pandemic happened with Amazon and how much games they've been shifting. I have a few sources here and there that can talk to me about some different things on what's going on overall with the game sales, and right now there is a lot of stock being moved on multiple different games when it comes to Amazon. It's been pretty much the #1 place people have been buying games here in the US outside of the digital storefronts from various different console manufacturers. But at this point, man, Amazon is doing extremely well with that, so it's really cool to track to see what is happening. And right now Metroid Dread is continuing to chart higher and higher on these pre-order sales. More and more people are clicking that button saying, yes, I want Metroid Dread on October 8th, right then and there. Amazon has been building more facilities, have been getting more games out on time, when before they used to say, oh yeah, day one, you're going to be able to get it, then it'd be delayed. So a lot more people are getting consistent in what they're doing there. So that's definitely a good thing for gamers out there. Plus, you also have the other aspects, right? Places like Walmart offering $50 off on brand new releases, even some of those Nintendo Switch first party games. For example, like The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD being $50 day one. Also same thing with Amazon as well. And it's really good to see that Metroid Dread has risen all the way up to #2 on these charts. And I've been tracking it before. It kind of had a little bit of a dip about a month or so ago. Had a really strong debut after E3. Everything was kind of going a little bit lackadaisical, but then it started moving up and up as we got more Metroid Dread reports. And then the most recent Metroid Dread report with a brand new trailer absolutely spiked sales on Amazon and also at various different retailers. I'm hearing that GameStop also had a huge spike in pre-order sales at multiple locations as well. So it does seem like this game is doing extremely well so far for pre-orders. We did already hear about the most pre-ordered Nintendo Switch games after E3, and Metroid Dread was #1 on that list. I'd love to see if I can get an update from GameStop. That would be awesome, but I think that Metroid Dread is by far doing much better than people would have anticipated for this style of game, and seeing it up to #2 on the Amazon bestsellers list before the game is even launched is very good to see with the new releases. And I'm pretty sure Nintendo doesn't give us these actual pre-order numbers, but I'm almost positive that this is a highly pre-ordered game on the eShop as well. Nintendo targeted those pre-orders with that new trailer because that's why they wanted to show a bit more of it, to show the big boy Kraid was back, to show like, hey, you get all of these cool abilities, to show, hey, here's what's going on in this game. This is what Metroid is about. Yes, a lot of the core old school fans or hardcore Nintendo Switch fans are sold on Metroid Dread. Yes, but you still have to kind of capture the attention and keep it in the spotlight. That trailer was very important to the long-term success of the game. Very important to the short term too, but also very important to get more people talking about the game and more people interested in it, making videos, talking about it, just discussing it. That is the whole point of that trailer, and I think it did a very good job of that. And of course, the numbers actually are showing up here with the game moving up on the Amazon sales charts as well. So what are your thoughts on the continued Nintendo Switch effect? We've discussed games like No More Heroes 3 and also other titles. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword probably doing way better than what it did on the Wii. Even games like WarioWare Get It Together are starting to slowly creep up those sales charts as well. So what are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys. We have a first for a major Nintendo Switch exclusive, and that is Shin Megami Tensei V in Japan for the first time ever has actually become the Famitsu's most wanted game. Now, I don't want to put a ton of crazy amount of clout or stock into these Famitsu charts because it's not the Famitsu sales. It's just the readers, the people who read the online and stuff like that, the magazine. They're the ones who vote on what they're most anticipated or what they're looking forward to the most. And for the most part, it's always, you know, the usual suspects. You see stuff like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. You see stuff like Pokemon. You see Splatoon, Tales of Arise, Final Fantasy, all of that stuff, which is absolutely fantastic. But here comes this Nintendo Switch exclusive, Shin Megami Tensei V, up there at the #1 spot. And that's interesting because Tales of Arise is coming out very soon here worldwide. And also even like Final Fantasy 16, that's been up there. Those are usually like the 1-2 Tales and Final Fantasy. So it's really good to see Shin Megami Tensei V up there with the big boys, the franchises like Tales and the franchises like Final Fantasy. Although probably not going to sell as much as Final Fantasy, I do think that Shin Megami Tensei V has a very good shot to be a 2 million seller plus on the Nintendo Switch, absolutely crushing everything that it's done before with the previous games with SMT4 and SMT3. I think people are primed and ready to go to play this type of game on the Nintendo Switch. And if you look at it, for me at least, it's the most impressive third-party RPG on this system. And we're not talking about actual ports and stuff like that and impossible ports and games brought over years later, but an actual Nintendo Switch game made for it that's brand new, didn't come late, built for the system, announced and say, hey, we're going to develop and put resources into this. It's the first major one that I've seen, and it's the most impressive from a third-party standpoint, in my opinion. There are some other really good ones, right? Monster Stories 2 is very good as well, but this one edges it out a little bit, in my opinion, when it comes to Shin Megami Tensei V, and I'm happy to see that more and more people are getting hyped for these type of games. But heck, the whole top 30 charts are just awesome. I'm buying pretty much every one of these top 15 or so. There's a lot of good games in here that I'll be checking out for sure. So what are your thoughts on these charts here? What are your thoughts on Shin Megami Tensei V capturing that top spot for the first time from what I understand? Now, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but what do you guys think about this? Are you guys excited for this game to come out this November? Are you looking forward to seeing reviews of it? What are you most anticipating with this game? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the last topic here. Did Sony lie about the SSD with Ratchet and Clank and what it could do? Some people are starting to question that after a big developer has came out and kind of called Sony on this. So I found this article to be very interesting because Sony did hype up this Rift mechanic and only on PlayStation and all of that. And when I played Ratchet and Clank A Rift Apart, I didn't feel that there was any crazy type of thing that the Rift mechanic is doing that couldn't be done, but I didn't know because I'm not a developer and all of that. But the graphics obviously are amazing and probably could only be done on PlayStation or the newest gen, so I get that. But that whole rifting mechanic was just moving from one spot to another spot quicker. So to me, it didn't seem like anything crazy, and gameplay wise didn't really change up anything for me. But now we have a developer actually talking about this too. So the TT Games founder has said that that rifting mechanic can easily be done on a PlayStation 3. So this is John Burton, who founded TT Games in 1989, which was known as Traveler's Tales at the time. In a video on the Coding Secrets YouTube channel, claimed the rift mechanics in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart didn't need the PS5 SSD, and it could have easily been done on the PlayStation 3. Now, Burton says that Insomniac Games was being misleading, and that is a quote, misleading, when the developer claimed the rift mechanic, quote, would not have been possible without the solid-state drive of PlayStation 5. The way the Rift gameplay was presented before launch was pretty misleading, said Burton via Video Games Chronicle. He said what was shown was an amazing sequence of Ratchet zipping between many other worlds, all chained together into awesome action sequences, and in reality it was mostly just cutscenes or very short sections of very limited gameplay. Now, and he did add that he isn't saying that Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart didn't use the PS5's SSD to achieve the Rift mechanic, but he says that it could have been pulled off on older hardware. He says it could have been done on the PlayStation 4 or even the PlayStation 3. Quote, now they could have just been using all kinds of solid state drive trickery to pull these off, said Burton, but because it's just one rift, it always goes to the same area. This can easily be achieved on older hardware. The pocket dimensions are really graphically basic, and in fact, just seem to use a lot of the same generic objects like crates that would have already been available in generic memory. So it's pretty much a skydome, a few small platforms, generic objects, and nice lighting. So on older hardware, it wouldn't take much memory, especially as it also uses the generic objects, all of which make it quick to load. The important thing to note here is that none of this is optional. It's forced, Burton added. This is important because it means you can preload the grind rail sections while you're playing the speeder sections. In fact, every section of this sequence is both forced and small. You only move across a very small part of the world and have very little ability to even move during this section. This means the game has the whole time you're playing the section to load the next section. So imagine the game has two memory buffers. The first buffer holds the section you're currently playing in. While you're playing, it can load the next section into the second buffer. To transition between buffers, you could just have a very simple intermediate void location permanently in memory to hide any swap over glitches that might happen. I'm just explaining how other pretty simple techniques can be used to achieve exactly the same thing on older hardware, he said. So there you go on that. Was Sony misleading on it? I think, yeah, somewhat. I mean, but Sony's messaging with the PlayStation 5 leading into launch and what they were doing with generations and some of the games and only possible and stuff like that, it was very dodgy wording, right? So this is kind of like the dodgy wording that they were using. There's probably some things that you can kind of say, oh, well, with the graphic quality and with the Rift mechanic, it's only possible on this. But Sony specifically mentioned the Rift mechanic and how the SSD loads so fast, and that's how they're able to do it. So yeah, I have to believe that Mr. Burton is correct here with what he's saying because he explained it in very layman's terms to where anybody can understand, and that kind of falls in line with Sony's messaging, just trying to sell the PlayStation 5 and everything like that. So yeah, I think that they were being a little bit misleading, but at the end of the day, Ratchet & Clank is a good game. People bought it, and people bought into what the developers were saying about the game. So it is what it is on there. And I think that Insomniac even kind of walked back a little bit after they first initially talked about it. They kind of walked it back a little bit in terms of what it can do. So I think they kind of knew that they were being a little bit misleading as well. PS5 gamers got a great game, and that's pretty much all they were looking for, and it loads really fast. So that's that. So what are your thoughts on all the different topics here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. I've got a Twitter page. Go and give me a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.